Three junta-ruled countries in Africa's Sahel region will join forces to create a 5,000-strong unit to fight the jihadist violence that has for years plagued the nations. Burkina Faso, Niger and Mali will create a unified force within weeks, Niger's Defense Minister Salifou Modi said on Tuesday. The three nations are former French colonies where the military deposed civilian administration in putches between 2020 and 2023. Each of the three countries has been wrecked by attacks by jihadists allied with either Al-Qaeda or Islamic States for decades, violence that governments have not been able to eradicate despite help from French forces. Following the coups, the three countries distanced themselves from France and last year formed a confederation, the Alliance of Sahel States. The three countries already carry out joint anti-jihadist operations, especially in the region where their borders meet and the attacks are the most frequent. They all expelled French forces, opted out of ECOWAS and sought new alliances with countries like Russia that are keen to increase their presence in the region after the coups.
Audio Jungle.
Across the broad Sahel belt of West Africa, a new chapter in regional security is being written. For years, the world's cameras have focused on insurgencies, aid flows, and external military footprints. Now, the story is changing. A military alliance is emerging, one led by African states. Three neighboring nations, Alliance of Sahel States AES, comprising Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, have announced the formation of a joint force, military cooperation, and a clear break from previous defense alignments. Tonight, we examine what this alliance means, not only for Africa, but for the United States, NATO, and the shifting balance of global power. In September 2023, the Alliance of Sahel States AES was formally established. The three militarily led states had grown frustrated with what they describe as external interference, legacy colonial arrangements, and security dependence. In January 2025, their defense ministers announced a joint force of 5,000 troops, equipped with its own air assets, intelligence capacity, and cross-border operations mandate. The alliance's objectives are clear: coordinate military operations across their borders, reduce reliance on former colonial powers, and spearhead a regional defense architecture suited to local threats. Yet the implications extend far beyond the Sahel. The formation of AES is triggering concern in Western capitals. The United States, via United States Africa Command AFRICOM, along with NATO allies, are reviewing their posture in Africa as old logistic gateways shift and local military actors assert autonomy. For decades, Western presence in Africa relied on bilateral military bases, security agreements, and stability operations. Now, with African states forming their own alliance and renegotiating their partnerships, the traditional framework is under pressure. In 2025, the withdrawal of French troops from Senegal marked a symbolic moment of this transition. The question being asked, what happens when the continent's security becomes more self-determined and less aligned with Western strategic interests? The Sahel region faces severe security challenges: jihadist insurgencies, arms trafficking, migration crises, and fragile governance. An alliance offering coordinated military response makes sense. But there are deeper stakes: resource sovereignty, infrastructure control, and diplomatic realignment. Analysts note that African states are increasingly partnering with Russia, China, and Turkey for defense equipment and training, bypassing Western suppliers. As Africa positions itself not just as a recipient of security, but as a provider of it, the global map of influence is shifting. Establishing a functioning military alliance is complex. The AES is working on logistics integration, interoperable command and control, joint budgeting, and international procurement. It also involves political coordination. The three states have severed or significantly reduced partnerships with France and other Western powers, and are exploring alternative alliances and financing mechanisms. Implementation will face hurdles: disparate military capabilities, regional rivalries, sanctions risk, and external mediation pressures, but the intent marks a profound shift. At one level, the AES is about regional defense, but its significance is global. An Africa-led military bloc challenges the era of external security imposition and instead positions African states as architects of their own futures. For the United States and NATO, this means adapting to a more multipolar security architecture in Africa. For other global players, it opens new partnerships and influence channels. Ultimately, the question is, who sets the rules when Africa takes charge of its own security? Change brings risk. Critics argue that military-led alliances may sideline democratic oversight, exacerbate regional power imbalances, and invite new external actors seeking influence. The AES states have also faced human rights concerns and governance deficits, which may complicate external legitimacy. And as Western bases pull back, gaps in capacity could allow non-state actors to exploit vacuums. Unless local states build robust institutions and inclusive frameworks. Looking ahead, we can imagine several trajectories. Scenario A, the AES solidifies, expands membership, develops an integrated joint force, and becomes a stabilizing force in the Sahel, reducing dependence on Western actors. Scenario B, the alliance struggles with internal divisions, external sanctions, and capacity gaps, leading to partial success and continued external influence. Scenario C, the alliance catalyzes broader continental defense cooperation, inspiring similar blocs in East and Southern Africa, reshaping the continent's security architecture entirely. Whichever path unfolds, the era of Africa being a passive stage for external military operations appears to be ending. The continent is moving into agency. When Africa begins to define its own security partnerships, it changes more than armies. It changes sovereignty. For the United States, NATO, and other global players, adaptation is not optional. For Africa, this is not just about a new military alliance, it's about rewriting the narrative. Because when security builds from the continent outwards, power shifts begin.